Hey, what's going on, guys? Nate and Phillip back again with another episode of the PokeTalk podcast, the last one of 2023.
Whoa.
What's going on?
Not too much. Just got back from traveling. Got a few days off around Christmas, and it was almost a week. And been spending most of it traveling. That's kind of how it goes, it seems like.
Yeah, we'll talk about our holidays and stuff. But this episode, we're going to be talking about our 2024 goals. It's usually how we do it when we wrap up a year. It just makes sense for us to talk about the year to come and what kind of is on our radar as far as cards we're tracking down. But we'll talk about our 2023 goals and how we accomplished those or if we came up short. But I think we both did pretty good with our goals there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, should be a nice, simple, to the point episode. But yeah, we're recording on a little snowy day. Finally getting the first snow of the year. And yeah, it almost didn't feel like Christmas this year because it's been so mild, like temperature wise. And
yeah, it was like 60 something degrees on Christmas Day, and I was even telling my girlfriend, I was like, because we were in the same town we were a few years ago, and it was like a ghost town on Christmas Day, or like the day after Christmas, and whereas this past year it was pretty lively. And I think the weather has something to do with that.
Yeah, for us, the Christmas Day was like upper 50s or right at 60, and the day after as well. So yeah, people got out and about still, but temperature definitely dropped right after, and now it's snowing out. So wish we would have got this a little earlier. Just it went by really fast. It always seems like it goes by pretty fast, but I don't know, with the warm temperatures and stuff, it just felt like it was kind of meh this year as far as like leading up to Christmas.
Yeah, it didn't quite feel. I mean, it kind of snuck up on me personally.
Yeah. But this is a pretty good one. Was yours pretty good? Did you get any Pokemon related things?
No, there wasn't really too much to say on it, unfortunately. It was a lot of traveling and dealing with some stuff, so it was nice, but like there wasn't really too much to it, which is fine.
Yeah.
I saw everybody. I talked to just about everybody, so.
Good. Yep.
What about you? I know you have a kid, so that's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's really fun with her. She's be going on 2.5 here soon, so she really got into opening presents this year. And sent to the old Santa and doing the elf on the shelf thing.
I don't even know what that is, like the elf on the shelf. Is that, like, I just remember seeing that. I thought it was a meme. I have no idea what it even is.
So it's just, I think it's a book. They conveniently made a book and a doll to go with it. But it's like a little story, like this elf watches you and like reports to Santa to tell him if you're good or not. And so each day you just hide the elf on the shelf or on the tree, and every morning, like, we move it around. So it's just like a little fun game. And if she's acting up, we could be like, elf's watching you. You're not going to get anything for Christmas.
Big Brother's watching you, so it's like a social statement over the rising security state, I guess, huh?
Yeah. Teach them young.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's pretty fun. I didn't know it was such an origin. I always thought it was just a Christmas joke, like a meme.
Nah.
So
yeah, I think it's don't know if the game or the book came first, but I think it was like a book like this family made because it was like their tradition, and then it just kind of took off. So some people go crazy with it, like an elf for each kid, and it's like, we're just going to be doing one for the household.
Yeah.
And, we just kind of move it around and don't get too elaborate with the tricks. Some some setup like that the elf's playing tricks on them and stuff like that. But in our house, he's just watching over everything and reporting back. So, but yeah, it was fun. Nothing really Pokemon related. I always ask for some eBay gift cards, and still to this day, like the family like wants to get me something that I like, but I tell them eBay gift cards, and they're like, "Oh, well, we want to get you a little something else." It's like that is literally the best gift you can pretty much give me. It's like if you don't want to give me money and you're feeling like giving me something personal, like give me an eBay gift card. Like, so yeah, it's always a not a struggle, but it's like literally that will make me happy. Trust me. And then people just get so worried, like, oh, well, I want to get you something besides a gift card.
Honestly, there's a few things. Most of what I bought went towards the PSA 9 Mario Pika, obviously. Some other of the sold earnings from the D23 cars also went towards a tattoo. I know. But I figured it's a sleeve. I've already have basically already, a part on my upper arm, part on my lower arm. I might as well just get it all done. And it's something I've been wanting for about 5 years anyways. So I figured now I have the money, just go ahead and finish it. But there were a few small things that I did buy as well. Some of which we can go ahead and discuss in the goals section because it's a part of it. But I did buy a PSA 9 1999 Topps TV Ash card. So we also got our autos from the KCCon this past year, or that we went to this past year. We just got those back just 2 days ago, actually. I guess it was just yesterday, wasn't it?
Yep.
And I was disappointed that as we looked closer, so I bought a CGC 9. It was like $45. Thinking like, oh, it'll most likely transform. We looked closer before we sent in, and there was like a small little, like almost indentation, I think, on the side. Enough to where it probably wouldn't get a PSA 9. So we just did the Auto 9, and it didn't even get the Auto 10. So I was like, So that one's up on eBay. But I was like, you know what? I really do want an Auto 9 or an Auto 10 or 9 PSA 9. I would really like to have a 910, obviously, but a 99 is kind of cool too. And so I also bought a PSA 9 Topps TV Ash. I just bought that last night, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, a guy sent me an offer, and I was like, I spent like $45 on the CGC 9. This with tax and shit was like $55, I think. I was like, you know what, that's pretty good. And I know we're planning on going to KCCon again this year, and Veronica Taylor hasn't announced yet, but it's still early, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting another one. Just meeting her and talking to her. It's always a pleasant experience. I'm okay with my Auto 9, like ideally, like I don't know if people saw, but I'll be making some posts this week. I got a lot of videos to edit today and tomorrow, and then I'll be making posts and uploading videos a lot this weekend and next week about pretty much everything I've been doing in the last month, and those autos will be in there. Ideally, like some people go for the card grade as well, but with signature cards, like you kind of thought the same thing, as we both got the same thing, but we went for like authentic and then auto grade. So like, I feel like there is definitely a premium if you get a like PSA 10 and then an auto, obviously, but our cards definitely weren't 10s. And I think anything below a 9 grade, it just makes more sense to get authentic, like no card grade. And the idea behind that is it's like once you get down below PSA 9 or 10, like the card grade itself is just, not really relative. You're buying it for the signature in that case. And to me, pretty much people are buying it for the signature anyway, so why take away from the signature and getting a card grade? So like if you have a good signature like we did, we all all of our cards got auto 9s, still a good grade.
Mm-hmm.
But why take away from that with like a PSA 6? Like, you don't want a
PSA 6, but then an auto 9.
yeah, you
Looks
don't
kind of.
yeah, you don't want it to, it takes away from the signature. Anything that's like even a PSA 8 auto 9, or pretty much anything that's lower than the signature itself, like really takes away from the signature in my opinion. So I personally like to just take the card out of the picture entirely, just make it authentic. That way you can totally focus on the signature itself. So
I would say the idea for this card is it might be for myself, but you get a PSA 9, maybe a shot at a PSA 10, and then try to get the auto 10. And then potentially either keep it or sell. I don't know. But last year I had her sign, or Taylor sign 2 things, and the other one was like a poster she had, and she wrote a personalized message on the poster. That is something I'm keeping. But for the card, she literally just wrote her name, Veronica Taylor. So I was kind of towards the whole thing, whereas like she left like a whole sentence on like the poster, she just wrote her name, and the fact that I want to even get a PSA 9, I'm like, I'm just not really wanting it. But next year, the idea is to go with 2 or 3 things for her to sign and try to get that 10 on both, or a 9-9, so I can keep that.
yep.
And then hopefully the other ones I bring would, essentially what I'm thinking is it would allow me to have the trip for free, essentially. If everything works out that's why I bought one right now. I want one for my own collection as it is, and the moment I see her, she is coming to KC. I plan on buying 1 to 2 more, and I know Charles Martinet already announced he's coming. Nathan.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I saw. There was a few people that have already reserved. You got the speaker of for Yugi and Kaiba. I might try to get those 2 as well.
I got both of them on a single card.
Mm-hmm.
I might try to get them on each individual cards. But I'll see. I don't know. I'll plan ahead. Charles Martinet, I did have him sign a Mario Topps card, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But even all those guys, like I didn't even have them all graded. Like the only one I cared to grade is Veronica Taylor and Sarah Nanocini, the voices of Ash, but my Sarah Nanocini auto got declined, so that was a little annoying.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna say Eric Stewart is both the voice of Brock and James, and on that poster from Veronica Taylor, it has a place for both James and Brock. So the idea is for me to get him to sign potentially both times. And I just don't know if it's worth having him sign once or twice, because it's already potentially getting expensive before getting the people I want for other things, like if Sean Schimmel or if Christopher Sabat, who's the voice of Vegeta and like All Might, and like you name your pick on any major anime in the last 20 years, he's involved somehow, it seems like.
yeah,
So that's even before those people are reserved. So I just gotta be careful because I'm not trying to spend $1,000 in autos, but I do have the intentions for this year of making money going in this year with these signatures. That is a part of the plan.
mine is to just kind of build up my signature binder. It would be cool since I have like Yugi and Kaiba token card with them both signed.
Yeah.
To also do like a Blue Eyes and Dark Magician.
Yep.
And I might just get like the 25th anniversary versions that are cheap. It'd just be cool to have those. And then aside from that, like if Veronica Taylor signed again, I don't know what I would do. If they did a poster thing, like I might do that just for like an art piece.
Like something to hang up.
Yeah, go back and have all them sign it. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, I know I want Dan Green at least once, and then Eric Stewart potentially twice. So you're already looking at $135 right there, and that's before Schimmel. That's another 3 times. So that's already $300 because I would want him to sign 3 things as well. Sabat's another 2. That's $400.
Is Schimmel coming back already?
Not yet. They haven't announced it yet, but I'm assuming if he is, Like you're talking, not even including potentially, making money eventually with Taylor, but you're looking at $600-700 right there. And I'm not opposed to it if the idea is to make some money off it to allow me to break even on everything.
Yeah.
Break even, maybe make $500 to get something that I'm about to discuss in the goal page.
Yep.
So, yeah. But they did announce a few people. They have announced the music guests. You can tell who are the people that do this for their main source of income. I'll just say that. Not anything against these people. Like I think they're awesome, and I get it. I'm just saying you can tell who does this to make a living.
Yep.
So
What is up with this Collecticon website and how giant everything is? It looks like you might be able to buy tickets already.
yeah. Oh, can you really? Oh, you can. Look at that.
It says 2024 tour dates. So
I'll probably do that actually later on this weekend.
Yeah. VIP Fast Pass $100.
Yeah, we'll probably do that. I'm not gonna wait. Well, I kind of want to make sure Taylor or somebody like that comes, Schemmel or Taylor, and then I'll do the VIP pass. If Taylor isn't coming and neither is Schemmel, my desire to wait around in autos to get autos is very minimal, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So Schimmel, Sabat, Taylor. I'm looking for 2 of the 3 preferably, but at least 1 of the 3 before I click VIP pass. So I might hold off. We'll see. But yeah, soon.
Yeah, let me see about the special guest here. They already got a panel schedule, celebrity schedule. Oh, it's all coming soon.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
give it
unannounced
another
live
month.
performance, but David.
Ooh, Vanilla Ice.
David Yost, who
Blue
was
Ranger. That's
Blue
cool.
Ranger. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
He was my favorite as a kid. Was the Blue Ranger, but I'm not interested in getting anything signed by him though. Power Rangers was something I was out of by the time I was like 8.
Yeah, I never really got into Power Rangers. So
Really, you don't remember having the Burger King toys, going to see the 2 movies?
no, I just never really got into them at all for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, I see you, Dan Green, Eric Stewart, of course,
Jason
Charles
Page,
Martinet. I would probably. Let me see who else is here. I would probably just grab a Jason Page signature just because it just makes sense to throw it in my binder. I've talked to him multiple times. Like even we ran into him walking into the.
He was pretty chill. He felt like he did a bunch of drugs when he was younger, obviously.
He's
But
definitely over the top and quite the character, but he's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be cool just to throw him in the binder. And then Charles Martinet, I might actually bring my
OG
Super Mario
game.
World. Yeah.
I don't regret that at all. But I don't know if it's worth staying in a line with him again. I could look to see if there's anything. It might be a Super Mario 3 game if I do go there at all. Super Mario 3, or the first Super Mario game, I might get done just to have for his collection because it ain't worth buying through him. That's for sure. What was it, like 150?
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. It was almost borderline disrespectful considering it's cool. I mean, it's Mario, right? And everybody remembers playing Mario as a kid, but let's be real. It's not like he's not in the same tier, in my opinion, as like a Chris Schimmel, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's a Super Mario World.
Or Sean Schimmel, excuse me.
Super Mario World is like just the game that started everything for me. It's what it was like the first game I was exposed to and like really played a lot.
Yep.
So it'd be cool just to have my OG copy signed. But yep, they got a bunch of dates if y'all are thinking about going. Definitely have to check it out. There's 3 of them in Texas for some reason, but they got Dallas, of course, a New Jersey location, which is new. I think they're going to Houston twice.
That's kind of weird.
Well, they got Dallas, Houston, Dallas.
Dallas Fort Worth, so it's a different location.
Yeah, and
So
then
one's in the
Houston. So
city,
four in
and then
Texas.
and then Dallas Fort Worth is more like the suburbs. You got in the city, then in the burbs, and then you got to Houston. That's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
I guess they must have had obviously a large enough following there that it merited having two events. So
I do know Houston. I knew a buddy who went. He said it was just nuts. And Kansas City, as busy as it is, it's like the smallest one by far. So we always have the privilege of that one being the closest to us, and not getting
Chicago is
not
another
getting
one.
overwhelmed. But yeah, I was gonna say Chicago might be another potential.
They don't have any in. I just noticed they don't have any in Colorado this year.
Yeah, I think they took out Denver and just made another Texas one. So
Interesting.
yeah, kind of weird. I guess it just makes sense for like financially how they did it. I'm sure a lot goes into the planning and all that. But
Yeah.
let me see if I'm even off by like random chance on that weekend of Chicago, because that would be one. I think I
12 to
am.
13th.
Yeah,
12 to 13th.
yeah. I think I'm off. So like Friday evening / night, I could potentially go to that one. Like travel wise.
It might be. I would only go. I wouldn't be opposed if you wanted a co-pilot. Sean Schimmel's already announced he's coming to Chicago.
For Chicago, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe that means he's a no go for
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Not necessarily. They're significant months apart, but June. If he skips Kansas City, it's because there's another event on that same weekend, or the weekend before, or the weekend after that he's preferring to go to. Is my guess, because he also goes to like all these anime cons and other stuff as well. It's not just stuff like this. And the reason, I mean, Sean Schimmel was definitely. Wouldn't you agree that Sean Schimmel was probably the biggest draw last year overall?
Oh yeah, it
Yeah,
was
Charles
weird. Like
Martinet on day two was definitely in the lead, but overall, Sean Schimmel had the longest lines all weekend.
that's what I was gonna say. Like Charles Martinet, like was so weird because when we went to get signatures, like there was a performance going on. We said, hey, let's go, but he was also at the far corner, and I think they did that because he was going to be very popular, so they put him in the far corner where there's like lots of space. But it was weird. Like when we went, like we didn't have to wait hardly at all. And then day two, like the whole day, the line was like all the way down the convention wall, like across the whole show floor. It was nuts. So really weird. So yeah, definitely have to jump in a line if you ever see that it's short.
Where's it at in Chicago?
Donald E. Stevens Convention Center.
I'm not familiar with that location.
I have no memory of this place.
Yeah. There.
Donald E. Stevens. Looks like from us, it is a 6-hour drive.
Which is about what I assumed.
It's kind
So
of north side.
it's on the north side? Yeah, to say it looks like it's on the north side.
Literally right next to the airport, though.
Hey, we can maybe go. There's a pretty great breakfast place on the north side. It's called God, what is it called? It's all they sell French toast stuff. It's like something in berries. And it is the best French toast I have ever had in my life. I kid you not. They have all of these different type of like, they'll have like French toast of the day, and it'll be some peculiar, like who the hell thought of that sort of French toast? Batter and
Interesting.
berries. Yeah, it's batter and berries.
Huh.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll have to
if we
check it
go to
out.
that, yeah, if we're going to that, we are going to this place. But it closes by 2, so you have to be there in the morning. So, but it's good.
Gotcha.
But yeah, if we go there,
Yeah, that's interesting that it's right, like literally right next door to the big O airport there. So we could potentially fly there if we wanted from our little airport in our town. But lots of options. But yeah, speaking of all this Collecticon talk, um, we could go into our old 2023 goals and how we went about, accomplishing those. A lot of mine, I know yours was like a little different, but a lot of mine did focus around the Collecticon trip and all that. With selling, we had those big PSA orders come back at the beginning of that year, and my goal, or beginning of this year rather, and my goal was to sell off a lot of them, and CollectCon played a big part of that. But what were some of your old goals that you accomplished? I think we obviously know know the Mario, but do you have anything else on there?
for last year, it was the other goal was more of a selling goal. It was the selling a bunch of Lorcana at a great cost to potentially get cleared out of debt. So it wasn't quite. It was kind of TCG related, but not quite. Now, for those that are interested, when I sell Elsa, I'll be 100% debt free. So it's. I know you're like, well, what do you get the Mario? It's like, well, come on now, okay. You got to live a little.
You gotta
but
spend 2 grand every once in a while.
well, exactly. You got to live a little. But no, seriously, like I kind of saw it as like I know the end is in sight within a couple months, and I've been waiting long enough for this card, so just go ahead and get it was my thinking. And then 3 months later, everything he'll be good. Is kind of like completely debt free. So that's going to be one of the goals entering 2024, and that's going to allow me to actually get one of the biggest goals for next year. But this past year, it was pretty simple. It was don't buy anything just about besides the Pikachu. So
Okay.
the Mario Pika.
Yeah, a lot of mine really focused on selling those graded cards. I did make a lot of sales um, that we were kind of contemplating, what I wanted to keep. And I think I did like pretty much a thinning of my collection again. But when we went to KC Con, a lot of those cards went bye bye. And I'm pretty much done with all my extra cards. But yeah, it's really interesting to see like all these cards that I acquire that I just end up wanting to sell, and then I buy more cards and then I thin out again. But I think I am now on track where my personal collection is pretty much where it's going to be for a while. It's I'm not going to be adding too many cards in the near future or even distant future that I'm not going to be keeping really long term. Um, my goals quickly changed from selling all those, which I finally completed at KCCon, and then it shifted more towards selling the Lorcana cards, which I did those as well. And kind of, tried timing the market as best I could with those, and I think I did pretty good. Lorcana hype is kind of still falling because we did have a nice big reprint of set 1, the first chapter. I think that will continue into next year. Still have the D23 cards on my radar. If I could pick those up for cheap, that could potentially be one of my 24 goals, but the Pokemon still comes first, so I'll go
Yeah,
into that a
they
little bit
have
later.
dipped a little bit just for those curious at D23. But I don't know. I don't know if they're going to dip any more or too much more than what they are. In fact, I can almost see them rebounding before I can see them dipping another 20%.
Yeah,
or 10 to
they've
15.
slowed. They came down. The PSA nines at auction, especially, kind of can surprise you here and there. If any of those nines get down to like $500 $600 range for the lower ones, I'd probably jump on those even before a Pokemon card. Because
That's
I
pretty hard to stop. Like,
yeah, at that level, it's like okay, like it makes sense. Like I don't think any of those nines should be below 500, and I think the lowest tens should maybe be at 1,000, even though they're holding above that. So at the worst, I think 500 and then 1,000 is the floors. If you take like Captain Hook, arguably the weakest one, you
yeah,
know.
I just don't see Hook going that low, even during the kind of some of the downtime before the release. I think the lowest it got was around 14 1500. Um, so I don't see it going that low, but it's definitely possible. If it were to go that low, that I would be more worried about the game as a whole than I would be about the cards. But I don't see them going that low. What you're seeing is slightly above to about the prices like midsummer. Besides the Elsa and the Mickey, which have both gone up since then. In fact, both of the latter two have stayed very strong, surprisingly strong, notably strong.
Yeah, I think interest for the game and interest for the cards will continue to feel like it's low, and that's just because it's not new anymore. People aren't over exaggerating the hype and talking about it, to that extent.
Can't make money off anymore.
Yeah. So it's like, people are just less hype about it. So we're not going to hear it as much, but the interest of the game is definitely still there and very strong, large community. So it's going to be here for the long haul, but it's like we saw with Pokemon, the hype died out. And you could argue that Pokemon was more of a hype because it lasted longer, but I just think that's the world we live in now. Things move faster, people want the next new shiny thing. If this was 1999 and all kids had to look forward to was Lorcana, this would be like a sustained, multi-year hype like Pokemon was, but I just think it's the world we live in. Even when Pokemon releases like a new release, we see it no matter how good the set is. The hype only lasts for about a month and then it's kind of on to the next thing. Like 151, it's still doing well, but it's old news. People are ready for the next thing, bring on the next thing, and I think that's just the different world we live in today. But I think the D23 cards will do good. I personally think they'll stay stagnant for a while, until the game fully establishes itself, and I think it will definitely establish itself. Playability wise, I think it already has. I'm just talking about the longevity. Like a lot of people see all these metazoos and stuff kind of having tough times now, and they think Lorcana's gonna go back, kind of follow that route. But it's definitely got the staying power. It's Disney. It will be here for a while, in my opinion, potentially forever, if as long as they're making money off of it. And it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. So, with that said, I think the D23 cards are definitely plays to have for the long
Mm-hmm.
term, but I just think it's gonna be stagnant for a while.
Well, I could see. I mean, maybe it's just my bias talking, but I could see the Elsa and Mario make another run. Um, I'm not saying it to 10 or 5,000, but I could see them going up another 15-20% from their highs, which is like 8 to 8,500 for the Mario or for the Elsa. I could see that happening. The some of the sales on the Elsa are particularly interesting. Some buy it now is between 6,500 to 7,000. Auctions between 5,500 and 6,000. It's very so. I think that tells me the market price is probably true is between 6 to 6,500. And the most notable thing is that the Elsa has been the most resilient thus far. When everything else has seen a near 15 to 20% increase, Elsa is maybe 10% from the highs, and I find that very notable. And I think that's an indicative of one, the Elsa being the true first edition Charizard of this TCG, in my opinion, and three, the desire for these cards are still very strong, and that it's being consolidated to specific cards, which makes sense, which is something that we both discussed back in late 2022 as a very real possibility down the road. And the market is kind of reflecting that on the short term.
Yeah.
But I actually, speaking because we're on the D23 cards, I actually lowered the Elsa, changed the listing with better photos, lowered the price to where it's above market, listed at $89.99.99. It's the third highest one, or the third buy it now, really. And I have the best offer entry point at 7,500. Now, I think if the Elsa is selling like this at the end of the year, when a lot of people suggest that kind of people are being more conservative for the money, people are being kind of careful with spending this time of year, money's going elsewhere. I find the resilience very interesting going into the new year as we approach tax season, and by all indications, the economy finally on the complete upswing at this point. It's looking like that. So that makes it very interesting the first 3 months, the first quarter of 2024. And that's when I'm looking to sell the Elsa is during that time frame. Now we'll see what happens, but selling the Elsa is imperative for the goals that I'll outlay here in a few minutes. But I know you're talking about a bunch of your stuff as well, Nathan.
Yeah, the like I said, the D23 cards, I mean they're good long plays, but even if you take the multi-year hype of Pokemon and apply it to Lorcana, but then just shorten it because of the modern times we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you had like a 3-year hype of Pokemon that turned out to be like a 1-year hype for Lorcana, I think we're in the lows of the Neo era, like where it's still going strong. People are still interested, but we just have seen interest trickle down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in the next few sets, we might potentially enter that EX era feeling, not to the extent that Pokemon was, because people are aware of every angle nowadays that it's collectible and playable and all that. So I don't think we're going to be any EX era drastic changes, but I think there's still room to go a little lower. But yeah, I think long term though, instead of Pokemon's EX era lull lasting 5+ years, Lorcana, given the times, might only be 2 years. But yeah, I think if they hit multi years like year 3 and they're still chucking along, I think we're gonna be really, really bright future, especially for those D23 cards. I think once they have sustained multiple years and things are still looking good and they look like they got it figured out, I think we'll be golden. But
yeah,
if they can keep it up, we'll see. But yeah, my D23 cards are all gone. My 2023 goals have pretty much been completed with selling those and buying a couple Grail cards. One of my Grail cards on my radar was the, Mega Charizard X Pikachu poncho, which I picked up a couple weeks ago. So super stoked with that. I sold my Scream Mimikyu. I got one of those coming in the mail in a tin. So pretty much have made my moves and completed everything for 2023. So yeah, ready to see where it goes. But with that, we can talk about some of our 2024 goals.
Yeah.
And see where it goes. I did do something unexpected though for 2023. I did grade pretty much everything else I needed to. A lot of that came with the decision of selling my first editions. So I sold my non hollows and all my graded hollows besides my Charizard. So that decision was tough, but I have. They were basically binder cards. None of them were grading above a 7, pretty much. So I just decided to kind of cut back on those, and I could always put that money into a higher graded Charizard, which I would ultimately like to do one day. But instead of doing that, I took the money and graded my gold stars. So now I'm officially done grading like all my old stuff. So it feels really nice to, you know exactly what the cards are worth. So, do you have any surprises for your 2023 that were not
Mm.
originally planned?
Well, I know there was some things that I bought that were a little bit unexpected when it comes to comics. I ended up finishing most of the runs I was looking for. I'm down to under 1,000 to complete my comic goal. I know that's a little bit different, but I really, really was strict on what I spent for Pokemon this past year. Man, I don't know if I even spent $500, honestly, straight up. Outside of
Yeah, aside from the
the
Mario.
yeah, yeah, I don't know if I did because I haven't bought any sealed this year. I don't think I even bought any at KCCon. There might have been a couple packs involved, but like nothing over $50. So if that tells you anything, I haven't bought any sealed this year. So and there was about $150 I think at the KCCon last year, and I bought about 100 some odd bucks of Ancient Muse. So yeah, like I literally like I went very very strict on my budget for Pokemon to allow me to get um the PSA 9 Mario Pikachu. However, that compulsion of being so strict kind of bled over to the comics, buying more there, so it kind of evens out. um, but I still went pretty strict as well there. But I did probably spend about $1,000 more than I should have throughout the year to complete everything. So you could argue, so technically probably less than 1,500 between my hobbies if you for the whole year if you take out the Mario. I feel like that's pretty good, right? Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's pretty good. That's pretty strict. So that's like 125 a month, which isn't crazy. Uh, now, some of the things that I'm going to be going for 2024, and this is something that I had discussed with you with, I think it was about 6 months ago. I was like, I might go after the Ancient Mew PSA 1 to 10 set. And I know it's just a small little thing. Like most of these cards are only 30, $35, but I was able to get the PSA 1 on my own, which is kind of funny because the PSA 1, believe it or not, goes for a little bit of a premium. Like some have sold like between $80 and $100. Shipped and all that. Kind of surprising, but then there's one on Christmas Day that sold for like 35, but it was an auction.
Yeah.
Um, and I am missing the PSA 3, 4, 9, and 10. The 10 and 9 obviously they being the most expensive, and there is a 4 online, but they want like $40 plus like $15 shipping.
I feel like all those would be
And
pretty easy to find, like 3 and 4s. I feel
yeah,
like
there wasn't a 3. There
relative.
was not a 3 on eBay, so or else I would have bought that one. The 10 is pretty steady around 350, and that might be something I get at the KC Con. I feel like that's an item that I would expect to see there, so I might try to see if I can't get it there, and then maybe even the 9, or at least the 9 there, and then being done besides maybe all but the 10. And the cool thing is the 3, 4, 9 can all be had for it should be for under 150. So actually, I would say it should be more like 120, 130. So that's really pretty cheap. Um, and Ancient Mew, as we discussed, is one of my favorite cards. And I actually was looking at a list of our top 5 favorite cards. I actually showed this to you as well, and I was like, you should take a look at what your top 5 favorite cards were. And I couldn't help but notice what my top cards are. were the Limited Charizard, or the Charizard artwork, Ancient Mew, Mario Luigi promo, Scream Psyduck, and the other one includes the Design Contest 2009 Surfing Arceus, which I'll never probably get. um, and then there's a few other ones from like the vending series as well. I couldn't help but notice how close I am to completing all of these of my favorite cards. And I was like, well, that should be my main goal then in 2024.
Yeah.
And that's what my main goal has become. And it's already happening with Ancient Mew, having the whole PSA 1 to 10 set. I'm sure I'll go to the Nintendo E Air card at some point, but it's not a main priority just yet. And get several variants of that Ancient Mew card. And I will continue to do something like that as well with my other goals. But what are some of the goals that you had in mind, though, as well?
Yeah, so for mine, I really tackled a lot of the Japanese grails, which I've pretty much done. Um, the last, I wasn't expecting to grade the gold stars for quite a long time, and I was really expecting my buying to really slow down next year. But since I've graded the gold stars, I will probably, like, number one goal is to sell things really slowly. I want to really take my time with the gold stars, get, what I think they're worth. Probably try to slow sell them on Instagram. Um, and potentially do that for the remainder of the first half of the year up until our Collecticon trips. Then, with that money, slowly, I think I'm going to buy the Scream cards, Scream Pikachu, Eevee, Rowlet, and Psyduck, potentially. Might buy those back. I've just figured I've divided up my gold stars right, where I could sell a certain amount of gold stars that I don't want, and I should have enough to cover those 4 cards and have a little left over. I have a little left over currently from all my sales and stuff that I've done with Lorcana and all the, first editions. So that'll be the main goal, is to slow sell those and buy the Scream promos back. After I buy the Scream promos, though, maybe a Luigi poncho. Maybe. Maybe the Charizard
Mm-hmm.
Y poncho. Maybe Luigi. I think it makes more sense for me to buy the Luigi just to have that set, but I'm not really a big fan of the poncho cards aside from the Mega Charizard X, because we talked about it before, they're just kind of plain poses.
Mm-hmm.
And the Charizard X just has more character for whatever reason they have.
It's Charizard. That's the only reason you need
Well, they got the Charizard Y, and he's a plain pose.
I know
So,
that is. I mean, my favorite's the Poncho Magikarp, but it was cut from my list of must-haves because it was the main outlier. So I totally understand where you're coming from.
yeah, I don't think I would ever really care to have the Rayquaza ponchos. If I got another poncho, it probably made sense to get, the sister Mega Y Charizard. Then if I had any others, it would be probably Magikarp and Gyarados. So, for sure, the Scream cards. Probably for sure a Luigi. And then other than that, I really don't know. I've tossed around the idea of upgrading the Charizard. That will always be a possibility. I just don't know how quick I'll be acting on that. If I get all that done in the first half, and then I go to Collecticon with that goal complete, or I complete that goal there, my focus will really shift to a possible Charizard, upgrade. So all my Grail cards as far as Japanese promos will be pretty much done. I might look at upgrading the Zards. So hopefully I get all this done or finish it at the Collecticon trip, and then I can see what's available as far as Charizards there. So
We didn't really see a lot last year though, for first edition. I think we saw something like a 7, I think.
yeah, there's a few around. I think we weren't really looking for them too much
No, we
either,
weren't.
but
We were focused on the Japanese promo stuff. That is true, but
yeah, I'll definitely be on the lookout. I would be okay and overjoyed with an 8. I think that's very doable without selling all my gold stars. For a 9, I would pretty much have to sell most of my gold stars, but if I found a 9 at like a incredible price, like I would probably try to go for that. So yeah, we'll see. See what happens. Anything's on the table, but main focus now is just to sell, get the screen promos back, maybe Luigi. That's going to be the main targets for 2024, and ideally before summer comes around, because I think things are going to heat back up again. Have a cousin back home who just got into Pokemon. He got a Van Gogh PSA 9 for Christmas.
hey,
So,
remember,
people
I know that.
still getting into it, man.
Well, I still think it's a steady roll. Since we're on the subject of Charizard, we should go ahead and just I guess it's an easy transition into my main goal for 2024, and that, as obvious, is a first edition Charizard. Now, what grade? It's not a question of if I can do it like it was with the Mario. It's a question of when and to what grade I can do. Because it's kind of the prices aren't necessarily all over the place right now, but the PSA 7 is between like 6,500 and 7,500. Like there's one that sold that for 6,500, another that sold for 7,000, and that's just in the past month. So I would say that's about the market. Now that can still change, obviously, and that if you take that rate, it's pretty much comparable to the PSA 6 as well. PSA 6 is really more around 5,000 now. There's some that was like 4,800, several right at $5,000. Like it's pretty. Like there's a best offer in an auction right at $5,000 for PSA 6. So that might be the most realistic option for me, but a PSA 7 is on the table. Now, PSA 5 would be the worst grade that I would get, which, you say quote unquote worst, which is still pretty good. Because the PSA 5 is kind of the same way, right? Like maybe around 4,000 right now, maybe 4,500. So it's
I was
definitely
looking up to
feasible.
see where one sold at.
Yeah, I mean, PSA, I was looking at the PSA 6, and I know the PSA 5 was kind of falling 6 and 7 in the last 45 days. 6 is around 5,000 average. 7 is between 6,500 and 7,000 average.
There was a
Now,
3 that sold for 3,300 though.
yeah, I mean, it kind of is dependent on a lot of factors, but I mean, I'm looking at 130 point. I'm looking at the last 45 days on these markets. Like, if you wanted 8,000 for PSA 7, I understand, but the market isn't there right now for it. That trickles all the way down.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely pretty interesting. It's anywhere for the last 6 months. I've always, pretty much the ideal numbers has been like a 1 being the exception. 1 has been about 2,000, 2 has been about 2,000, 3 about 3, 4 about 4, 5 about 5.
That's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah,
I agree, though, for sure.
it's kind of been the case for a while until you get to the 7. I mean, maybe it's like 7, maybe 8, and then the 8 goes up to about 10 to about, I'd say 10 to 12. So when you get to that 7, 8 range, it jumps a little more. But yeah, the last 6 months we've seen that scale give or take 1,000. Like we've seen some 5s go for 4, some of them go for 55. Like we've seen some 7s go for like 65, anywhere up from, and then, the week after they go for 75. So it's like that scale's
Like,
still kind of true, but like give or
yeah.
take 1,000, just depending on the factors.
PSA 5 is kind of interesting. I wonder if that has to do with just how close it is and also certain quality cards. Like there was one, it had 88 bids, right? That went for 1,500 around Thanksgiving for PSA 5. Now that I think is almost an outlier right now. I think there's so many people in on that card that it went above average and that seller got very, very good rates. Because there's also PSA 5 beginning of this month sold for 5,000. So I mean, I would say a PSA 5 is around 5K, give or take 500. Like you might have to take 4,500 potentially. Like this one was at 4,400, right? That was in the last 90 days. So it's kind of between 4,500, 5,000, and then it just trickles up. But the point being is, if you look at what these cars were in about 2019, I think the average is about here. Let's see. I think it's about 2.5 times or so where it was just before the pandemic from that rate. Let's see. Let's go to 2019. Yeah, looking at 2019, you're looking about 2,000, 2,200. This is for a PSA 7. So about 2.5 times or so
Hmm.
ish. So now the pandemic was unprecedented. It's something few people could have predicted to that extent. And it's very likely you'll never have something like that again, which is definitely very possible. It is definitely one of the highlights within the hobby of if you look at, we talked about that before, if you looked at throughout the history. Now, I'm not saying it's going to continue at that rate, but it did double after 2016 as well. So if you follow that trend, you might think that a PSA 7 or so, then after whatever hype that it might come, might be the 30th anniversary, 35th, 40th, whatever, it'll double two and a half times again. Essentially, being this is the lowest prices we're ever going to see for these cards ever again. And especially when it comes to the Charizard, the most iconic card in Pokemon, the most infamous and famous card in Pokemon. It's at this point, I don't know if Pokemon could even fail because you still have such niche demographics within the hobby. Vintage will always be strong, especially the Charizard. It is the Bitcoin of the TCG world.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's now or never for this Charizard. It wasn't feasible when I first got into it. I was like, I can never afford this. Well, between $4,500 and $7,500 between a PSA 5 and 7, because guess what? The 5 and 6 follow similar rates as the PSA 7 with 2 to 2.5 times around the same time frame. Now, I find that very interesting. So that's why you really can't go wrong depending on what you could actually afford. But I mean, it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. When I get it, actually, it was funny that you mentioned Chicago because I saw the date. When I'd be able to get it is sometime between August and mid fall when I'll be able to get the first edition Charizard. So it's going to be really interesting if the lining times up and if there's somebody that we talk in Kansas City that has it or has one, or if we can coordinate with somebody to see if it's worth it. But like I assume if they're at these shows, they're not going to let it go for under 7,000. So at that point, you have to ask yourself how much is trying to avoid the sales tax. You know, is it really worth going up to Chicago for that? That's just kind of something you kind of have to consider.
Yeah. A lot of people would bring the big cards. It's kind of a theme. Like, pretty much everyone has been selling, junk slabs for cheap, or they have old WotC beat up cards, or they have Japanese promos or like highly graded WotC that are priced to not sell. That's kind of been the theme of these shows, but there's a certain amount of those people who bring the big cards to sell. They might have it priced high, but if they could get, around market, they might be willing to talk.
And another thing to consider is the way things have changed in the last couple of years for sellers on eBay, especially those higher end cards. It really the sellers can fight for a lot of sellers, especially if they're established, can fight for the price they want because with the eBay store subscription. Now there's various, subscription fees. I don't know how high the highest one is, but one of the mid-tier ones, it only takes like 2.3% after the first 2,500. Now that's huge because even like on a $50,000 card, which is very few cards, right? You're paying less. You're only paying like around $1,000 in fees, but after the last 48,000, and I mean that brings down your overall fees to like if you say for a card that big to only like 5% or something like that. Really, really small, all things considered, right? So
Yeah.
it's at the point where you're talking for a $7,000 card, a difference of 4 to 500. So that offers the seller stronger negotiation platform to stay on. Like, I'll just sell it on eBay to get this price. And say if they have a price at 7,500, the lowest they'll probably take in person is 6,500, and it's more like 7,000, but they'll probably lowest take in person. So that's why it might be hard for some of these shows to potentially get what you want, especially for the higher end cards.
Yeah, the scale itself doesn't really make sense either. You have a lot of crammed numbers in the 2 to 6 PSA range for the Charizard. It doesn't make sense that the 10 is over 100,000 and then the 9, on a good day nowadays at
Like 13.
20k. Well, they're still about 20k normally, but we have seen a couple sales between 15 and 20, like even Z and G, one that had lots of eyes on it. Um, his sold at, or his consignment sold at 16 something, and then we had that other one where it was like, it was really bad copy in my opinion. It just looked bad. Colors were like oversaturated. It was a weird looking one. It sold for like 14. But on a good day, buy it now. They're still 18 to 20, but still that price gap is huge, and it might make sense because it is the Charizard. It's the card of all cards for set cards and for a lot of people in general, so it can do weird things. But why is like a PSA 8, 8 to 10k, and then you have all these other grades like crammed in to like a 6k range that could go more or less than the other any given week. So in my opinion, they need to spread out a little more, or the 8s need to go up, or the 9s need to come down, or the 10s need to come down. Like the scale needs to shift and establish itself a little more, in my opinion. I think it makes sense for the 8s to be around 10, and then you spread everything else out in between there. And then maybe the 9 should be 16 to 18. But then that would make like a 10 would make sense at like 80k for
I
me.
was about to say between 60 and 80,000 if you went at that rate. So either it almost seems like I even think a PSA 7 should be like 10K in my opinion.
Yeah.
8 closer to 15, 9 20 to 25.
And I
Doesn't that make more
usually,
sense then? I mean, that makes more sense to me than if your 10's around 1 to 125, right?
it makes
That
more
makes more
sense to
sense to
me
me.
like that scale, but I also disregard kind of what I think about the 10 because it is what it is. It can do weird things. It's Charizard of all things, so rules don't matter in a card like that really, but yeah, the scale just seems like it should be a little different. But yeah, we'll
But
see.
yeah, that's anyways. This is the lowest it's low it's going to be for the Charizard, and I assume it will be like that into 2024, into 2025. Now, I think sometime in 2025 is when we can start seeing a shift. Now, when that is maybe after spring, maybe I could start seeing around late spring, summer 2025, a shift starting to come up a little bit. So I think there's time, and that's why I'm not pressured to get it like in the summer, right? For these cars. I mean, I'm not. They might go up a little bit, but I think these are the rates we're going to see for the next year. I don't think there's anything that's going to change that. Like the earliest thing that could, I know there is some live action animation stuff coming, or like some not live action, but some like different type of media coming out from Pokemon. They have something on Netflix. I think is it today or tomorrow or something. It's sometime in the next few days. They got like the Pokemon Concierge. I don't see that causing any sort of media exposure necessarily, unless there's some they release something on the Pokemon Direct at the end of February that might change my mind. There's nothing that will alter the market, in my opinion.
See,
Even
I'm
the even honestly, even the economy going up, I don't see that changing it.
I'm more worried that it's like a just a winter lows that we see every year. That on top of the economy, like I'm worried that it's going to start upticking again this summer. You know, if the things keep going how they're going, still in a rough spot economy and inflation wise, but we're making improvements, but the winter lows are over. I'm worried that, you know, a lot of people will be starting to collect again and the modern hype has been dying out. I think the special set for this winter, the hype for that will kind of die out. And I think people, like I said, I think in the last episode, people will start going back and buying these old cards because that's truly where their heart is. And now that they've came down off the insane highs, people are probably thinking the same thing. So I think stuff
Well,
could potentially move up a
I
little quicker, but
that's
I
definitely
don't know.
possible. But we were seeing the trend of these cards even in the second half of the summer. We were seeing this downward shift. Now it was still like if you look at PSA, like if you go to the APR, I know that's not always like 100% accurate with every sale, but if you look at, I mean, like the five, there was fives, multiple ones, late spring, summer, $4,600 to $5,000. This was between April and July of this year, 4,600 and 5,000, and that trend continues. So if you look at October, PSA 6, 5,400. Hell, there was even a PSA 6 that sold in October that for 4,600. Like they're all there's only one in the whole year that well no two it looks like, but one oh it was signed. That's why it was so much. But yeah, most of the sixes PSA sixes on the past year under 6,000. So that's why I don't think it's specifically necessarily an end of the year lull. Now it's possible we could see upswing for the other factors that you mentioned. I just think this is going to be the trend for a while. Maybe 10% change, maybe will be affected unless you have a bunch of people going in at once. Because one of the reasons why the Japanese promos did what they did is a lot of folks got into that market all at once, causing a surge. And I think a lot of people speculate it was Hong Kong collectors, right? Is that what a lot of people were saying?
Yeah, a lot of China was buying it up. You know, China kind of hit the mainland, so people kind of went crazy, and we saw that huge spike of promos. But yeah, I think that was definitely part of it. But I'm sure they're buying up a lot of WotC too.
Yeah,
So
slowly, because doing it all at once will cause the market to shift. But I'm just kind of looking at within the past year, it continues at this ratio that we're seeing right now. So I think something big has to cause it to. I see you can probably do like yeah, even if you look at PSA 7 all the way back to 2022, it's still averaging about $1,000 per. With obviously variance with it, but that's why I think you can maybe see a shift of 10% next year, maybe, but that's about most, unless something else happens that we can't predict right now.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be weird. I I don't know. I think the same things for the Japanese promos, and they're way more exciting to collect. So that's why that goal is kind of taking priority. I absolutely love the gold stars, but I could part with half of them and go for more grails just fine. But yeah, once I complete that, especially if I get a Luigi and then the scream cards complete either before or at Collecticon, like my goals are to be determined after that because something I'm gonna have to sit down and really crunch the numbers and and see what's possible again. But maybe we'll do a an episode in the middle of the year where we, kind of recap and give you guys an update how it's going.
To
But
say, I only have a few more things to mention.
yeah, those are
Unless you,
pretty much all mine. The only other
yeah.
thing that I was going to maybe mention with a little extra money that I had this holiday, I have been buying a couple Lorcana cards for my Lorcana binder. I bought the legendary Elsa from the set, which I got at auction for $15. So a lot of those singles have been coming down. I think I'm still gonna, wait, like I said, for the enchanted rares for more waves, but the Elsa enchanted rares in the $300 range now for a raw copy.
Still pretty strong, but I expect by the end of the year that card in a 10 will be under $500.
Yeah, I think it's like $600 now in a 10. Like it's
I
definitely,
don't know. I'll have to look at it. I felt like it was still around 800 last I looked. I said since it came out, it'll be under $500 in a 10 based on the pull rates, but including the hype around Elsa. So I was kind of thinking around $500 for that card, maybe 400, maybe.
yeah. Let me
But
see here. Let me look at some sold listings, but yeah, definitely. I bought a couple of the promos. I'm watching a couple promos. So essentially, I want to collect the full first chapter line of things. I want to collect the foil set, the normal set, all the first chapter or set one promos, and then the enchanted cards, and then the D100 gift set. So that pretty much, like, the gift set is technically set 2, but it's like the first special product they've had. So I have a binder of all the stuff in it. I just want to complete that and then kind of maybe build a couple decks and then be done with Lorcana. So I might put a little extra money into that aside from the enchanted rares, which I'll wait on. But I do still have Pokemon binders as well. So I'll be looking for some raw cards at CollectCon. And if I don't find any and I'm done with my goals and I have some extra cash, I'll probably be after CollectCon be looking at some lists for my binders. But yeah, what are the other couple goals you were mentioning?
so obviously the Ancient Mew cards, the most expensive one being the 10. I might not even get that next year to focus on things if I get 1 through 9. The Charizard obviously between 5 and 7. What I can get will kind of vary, but I also want to get the first edition trio. So that's obviously the Blastoise and the Venusaur. So I'm going to go heavy on getting the better graded first edition Charizard, and then trying to find a clean PSA 3 or 4 first edition Blastoise and Venusaur. They're going to be around $500 a piece or so. So go find clean ones of those, so that way I have the trio. And then after that, it's going to be potentially buying the Vending Series 3, which is my favorite series from those first 3, from those sets. And I would love to be able to have that in lightly played to near mint condition. And at that point, if I can get all that, the only thing I'm missing is the Luigi Pikachu. And what I might do, this might not be till early 2025, is get a raw, lightly played copy just to have it.
Yeah.
Is what I might do. That way I have everything that I want. And I can start focusing on prioritizing money or going elsewhere. So I kind of want to be done with all the big goals for Pokemon by the end of next year. That's kind of the plan. So go big on the Charizard, go a little bit lower on the Blastoise and Venusaur, and go from there and complete everything. I think it's possible. I think the whole thing could be done for under $7,000 depending on things, and depending on what I want to do. If I want to go with 5, 6, or 7, that's going to dictate where else I go with other moves. So we'll just kind of see what happens.
Another thing lurking in my mind too is for big goals. Obviously the ones I mentioned, and then the Charizard would kind of become a thing. But I could potentially not make a move on the Charizard and get another really big card that I've been looking at, and that is the Here Come Team Rocket
Oh,
Japanese
okay.
promo.
Okay. The Giovanni's better.
Yeah. See, I would
Eh,
only buy the Giovanni to have the pair, but I
yeah.
definitely like, you know, Jesse James and Meowth card way better.
Yeah.
Um,
They're those are more expensive than I think those rival just about the 20th anniversary Festa.
they do,
They're pretty close. They're pretty close for sure.
and that's why they're a maybe for me. Like,
Yeah.
I get that they came, in the Rocket box, and it
Yeah.
was like a limited product because it was such a big product, but it just, the cards are expensive because of that.
Mhm.
But the cards themselves, just the price doesn't really make sense to me. Like I could see those being $5,000-$6,000 cards, just like the Mario's, but for them to be on that upper 9-10K level tier, they've just never made sense to me because I like so many more cards that I've chosen to get before those. So I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. That would be like a stretch goal, but I don't think it'll be done because I say it's a stretch goal, but I'll pretty much have to wipe out my upgrading Zard funds just to get those. Like I would pretty much have to stick with my first edition Charizard and then just put all that into those, which
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather they got kind of like a poor man's example or like a Heyman's example, I should say. For each of those cards, the Giovanni just had one in the Pokemon 151 set that's pretty similar in some ways. Um, while I do love those cards, I agree with you. Because of their price point, they are not realistic at all. Um, and obviously, there's going to be some cards like that in the hobby, right? But I'm talking about for what they are, and I don't the desirability isn't there. It's getting it from scarcity into an extent nostalgia with Giovanni and Team Rocket, but for it being $10,000, I mean, I don't know the numbers. It could make sense because I think it was an in-store exclusive to the one of the Tokyo Pokemon stores, right? Or was it the Okinawa grand opening?
I
Is
think you
that what
could
it
buy
was?
it. I might be wrong on this too, but I thought you could just buy it online. It was just a limited product.
I thought it was in-store only. Now I'd have to look that up. But if it were in-store only, the price would make sense. If it were comparable to like the special box Pikachu and Luigi, the price wouldn't make sense, right? But if it was truly in store only, that means there's even less quantity involved.
Yeah. Let me look it up real quick because I thought you could order it online, but it was just really limited. I can't remember the exact name. If it was like a
A Team
team,
Rocket case or something like that.
yeah, Team Rocket case, 25th anniversary Team Rocket case or something. So yeah, it was a special 20th anniversary product and pretty large. Um, so yeah, it's just like you said, just the cards themselves like just doesn't really make sense to me. But
They have a. I was just kind of looking at the KCCon page because I was going through a few pages on my tab list and just noticed. So they in each of the categories, at the last category with much more, the Mickey Mouse Taylor. It's from the first chapter, not the D23. Is front and center there.
mm-hmm.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, there's just with the money of those two cards, you could buy all the ponchos and more.
Hmm.
It's just
And the nostalgia factor, yes, there's nostalgia, but I would think most people would suggest a lot of the base set cards would supersede that level of nostalgia, right? You would think.
yeah, yeah. It's just I don't know. When you look at some of the cases on there, case only is like $800. It's like okay, it's kind of wild. But trying to find the Bulbapedia article on it, but it's so weird because it's just got the weird name. But yeah, that would definitely be a stretch goal. But yeah, I would almost have to totally just have every other Japanese promo that I would want. So it's a Team Rocket special case. Here it is. It's under a weird article like XY break era merchandise for some reason. So yeah, XY promo 277, 278, Giovanni Scheme, and here comes Team Rocket. This item could only be purchased from the Pokemon Center online as
Oh,
part
okay.
of a make-to-order run. So, yeah.
So it was they did make a decent amount of them then. Yeah, so the Giovanni 10 sold for 7,600
Yeah, and roughly
in
nowadays
November.
that's like $90. So it seemed like it was it closed December 2016 and began shipping to customers mid-February. So that's crazy in itself, just like 1 month production period where it went from being closed to people getting it in their hands. So yeah.
Well, there must have been more because with there must have been a lot more with the Mario and Luigi one made then. The numbers still have to lean towards Mario and Luigi because yeah, this price doesn't make sense. 7,600 for an auction, and then just 10 days later, one sold for 15,000.
Yeah, there's definitely way more of the Ponchos and Marios because that was like an actual product that was sent out to, many stores. This was, just the nature of the case it came in. It would look like it was a one time, like, hey, you can order it. It was a 2 month or a month and a half window where you could say you wanted it, and then they produced it, and then you got it. So it was just a one time thing, like a special print run. So can't imagine how many there are. This is 2016, right after Pokemon Go. So hype was starting to build, but this is like deep in the halls of the Pokemon Hive. Like there was not a lot of people special ordering this product in Japan and the United
No,
States.
because it was the Japanese one online, and there weren't as many people and connections to try and like through Tenso or whatever to try to order it.
Yeah.
I haven't ordered anything for a while, and every time I do, I mess up because apparently my address isn't correct in there, and I don't know how to change it. And so they have to like personally message me each time. Great service though, 100% service for sure.
Nice. But yeah, I mean that
But,
pretty much covers all my goals. And I didn't really have a question, and we're already at an hour and a half.
yeah.
It's pretty good episode, straight to
Well,
the point. Unless you got
yeah,
something
there's
else you
not
want to mention.
really. I say we didn't really cover something that I was going to phrase as a question though.
Okay, let's go for it.
It was okay. So in this past, I think it was this past year, there was 2 times as much Pokemon cards graded over baseball. A significant difference in overall graded quantity. One is what does this mean for Pokemon, and two, what does it mean currently for Pokemon, both in the future and now? What are some takeaways you can get from this or take from this?
I think a lot of people just have jumped into the Pokemon game, and that's why we're kind of seeing the decline we're seeing now. Um, just kind of oversaturation. We're seeing junk slabs galore. Stuff is just not worth grading. And I could see our first statistic of Q1 2024 where that's back reversed. Um, but it's also hard to say because baseball has been seeing the exact same thing. So it could stay how it is, just a lot of numbers went down. But I think people are getting smarter. Um, I say that even though someone is actively buying my cards first week of availability for twice the price is what they are 2 weeks after release. So I feel like people are getting smarter and what they want, but people are still paying inflated prices to get it the first graded copy of something.
You're always going to have the need for social media clout. I think for the foreseeable future that mentality is here to stay. So I don't think that's going to change. Now it's how much is how often that's happening.
Yeah, for the collectors that are in, if you're listening to this, you're definitely in the niches of the extra bed. But yeah, it's people like us are getting back to reality. You know, oh, there goes gravity. It's gone.
Oh, there it is. Mount Spaghetti.
But the gravity has ticked up again, and people are grounded, and people are making better decisions. People are making less plays because plays just make less sense. Things are getting back to how they should be. Actually making sense and back to normal. It doesn't make sense to grade literally everything possible, unless PSA maybe comes down to like $5 for grading or something. But
Be like, dang, they're just selling out free labor over here.
but even the chase card of each modern set, there's just so many that is being produced nowadays, and so many being graded.
Well, and the pull rates aren't what they were. Um, I forget what the top pull rate is, but I think it's like 1 and 2 or 300 packs compared to the alt arts, which were 3 times that.
Yeah,
So
they gave
that
you
right
more
there,
pools and they made it easier, and I think that was a choice to kind of combat
yeah,
the hype as well. And it was a good
because
choice, but
because the reason why some of the alt arts were where they were is because they're so hard to pull. So just do just kind of think about it is if it's 1,000, 1,500 packs to pull that alt art. Well, think about how much longer that would take for the market to become saturated enough for the prices to lower significantly, right? The hype with the Umbreon, I mean, there's a lot of hype around it, but that wasn't the only alt art that saw decent sized sales. That just didn't make sense in a PSA 10. And a lot of those are starting to dip down finally. But it's taken so long because of how hard they were to pull. Whereas now it's more about what it was before the introduction of alt arts and before the pandemic, with their pull rates being like what 1 in 300 or something like that. I forget what it was. It was the Iono wasn't crazy in terms of the pull rates, but it was like the top chase card. I forget what it was exactly. It was like 1 in
yeah,
250, 1 in 300, something like that.
I'm not sure. I just do not keep up with the modern stuff at all. But yeah, they definitely have done the right thing, and people are getting back to collecting binders again, and yeah, it's just nice. So, but yeah, that's my opinion. I think it has led to a lot of these. We're seeing the creation of mystery boxes and dollar bins, and
Which is something we're gonna see for a while until let's be real, it's Gen Z. Like I love Gen Z to death, but come on, y'all have to y'all have to learn at some point.
yeah,
Those are the ones that a lot of them are spending it on the mystery boxes because it's like, oh, what's that old Family Guy episode? So you can take the boat or you can take the mystery box. Peter, it could be a boat. That's it's kind of what's going on. And it's like that's not going to happen. They might have one major hit that's worth more than the value of the box, but if they give away that card, what's that mean? They have to be making a lot of money on all the other boxes, right?
yeah,
Like that you are getting your mystery box is how it's being built is per top dollar of each card. Even the junk slab that shouldn't be bought for $10, they're saying it's $20. Stuff like that.
yep. It's wild. And we've seen the junk wax era in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
The junk wax has turned into junk slabs because that's the thing nowadays. So it'll be here to stay. It'll take us a while to balance it out, but if we stretch out like 5 years ahead and we continue this, where like modern doesn't make sense to grade certain things, I think we'll be in a good spot. So with that said, though, that's pretty much all I had to cover. Unless you
Yeah, I
got
mean,
anything else.
I mean, there really isn't too much with the Pokemon is with the modern is unless something changes, you're going to keep on seeing the downward trend with Pokemon. It's going to be harder to make money on anything ultra modern, which is, I think, by design for Pokemon. I think this year we'll see what they have for their big item and their big UPC, which they print into the ground. Can't make money off those anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see what people try to go and do. People lost money on the Pokemon Classic set, which isn't really a surprise to me. Shouldn't have been a surprise to anybody, really. Now, do they have a cool item that they have? Maybe that might do it. But I think the last thing you can make any really, you had the Worlds promo, and then there was the end of era Precious Collection Pikachu. Those were really the last ones you had for like plays that were of stuff being released. I guess the Van Gogh one as well. But just as a whole, it's very limited on what you can do. And usually with what you can do, if you aren't trying to grade and flip that way, a lot of our people are going to be doing the same thing. Like with the Van Gogh, yeah, there's money in it, but the only way to really have done that is if you would have spent a bunch of money like at once on them. And to me, there's just too much risk involved with that.
Yeah, another thing I might look at getting, like if I don't make some of these bigger decisions, I might like start going after little cards like that. You know, the promos that haven't really seen their light of day yet, like the Precious Collection box and stuff like that. Still don't like the Van Gogh promo because it's in English, but doesn't fit my PC. But some of those other
I
little
would
ones,
probably get it
maybe.
one day when it's cheap. Like by next summer, I bet people are gonna be trying to get rid of it for like $100 and a 10. I bet. So
Yeah, well, we'll see. It's a that's one of those that's gonna be, I don't know, that'll be surprising because all the hype and all the media around that,
it now
and
has a story behind it.
yeah, hearing my cousin who is just getting into Pokemon seriously wanting one, you know, that card has stretched beyond now. Certain cards stretch beyond like that. So
I mean, it's around 350 and a 10, maybe 400. So I mean, if you put a bunch of money up front, you could have made plays. But I was just so concerned about that, about it, the market just like being pulled under because of the uncertainty surrounding it. We were talking about potentially trying to make a play on it, but I was just like, it's too risky. But maybe it's something I should have done. But we'll see.
it was still a good play, but it's just so unpredictable. Once you enter that realm, you know, if that was a normal release and we didn't see all that hype, it would have made sense. But once it gets to that hype level, like once it gets to Moonbreon level where it extends beyond, you know, rationality, you never know what it's going to do.
And that's
We're
what I was
just
concerned
now
about.
seeing Moonbreon
Yeah.
come down. You know, it took a long time. So yeah, maybe next summer, but maybe 2 summers from now, it'll finally start coming down when the next new thing comes. But
Still pissed off at Pokemon Center. Haven't bought anything since. Seriously. I'm not. I probably will again, but that really pissed me off. Like I haven't even opened those cards yet. So I mean, it's like I guess I'll open them. I might open them on the first or something. It's just like I bought cards I would have never bought. So yeah, that's the steel product I bought this past year was that thing.
which I bought sealed product to get the promos, but then I sold the sealed product.
Yeah,
You
I
know, I
didn't
just
get the
sold it.
promo.
I just sold it back. So
I didn't get the promo. It said it was in the cart and wasn't, and then they wouldn't allow me to cancel it. It was already shipped. So you can't return a TCG item.
yeah, it sucks.
So I mean, it was only $40, but it really just pissed me off. It's the principle of the matter that pisses me off.
Yeah, or like get those orders and then do another print run, and
And
you
they
know,
haven't done that.
yeah,
They haven't done that since. And at this point, I don't know if they will.
yeah. I don't know what they're thinking with that.
So
But anyway, guys, let us know your goals. If you want to start a discussion anywhere on our Instagrams, keep an eye out. By the time you're hearing this, I should have some videos and posts up. Um, about some cards we are selling. I took a picture of all the D100 cards, like yours and mine. I plan on do a post, like reach out, like, hey, contact, you know, one of us if you're interested in these.
Yeah.
So I have a few post up guys with some good stuff, and my gold stars. I'll be starting to sell those very soon. So anyway, guys, once again, thank you for watching. Y'all the best, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you next year.